You want to know how far some folks will go just to prove the rules don't apply to them? Let me tell you, there's nothing quite like finding muddy footprints in your own backyard, ones that don't belong to you, ones that lead right up to a freshly broken fence line. Every sign pointed to her standing there without a care in the world, acting like trespassing was just another neighborly favor. For months, she poked and prodded at every boundary, thinking I was just another pushover, somebody she could steamroll with her pink clipboard and fake smile. What she never realized was every time she crossed the line, I kept score, and when she finally went too far, that was the last time she'd ever walk over me. So back up a second, 2 years ago, I bought my first home in Meadowbrook Estates, this picture-perfect little neighborhood just outside the city. Quiet streets, lots of trees, neighbors who mostly kept to themselves. I thought it was the American dream, you know. But nothing in the brochures warned me about Karen Thompson, the self-appointed queen of Meadowbrook, who at 38 wore hot pink tracksuits and ran the HOA like her own private fiefdom. Her hobbies: surprise inspections, new finds, and making everyone sweat over the tiniest details. You left your trash can out a minute past noon. That's a $50 bill on your windshield. For a while, I figured if I minded my own business, she'd leave me alone. I was wrong. The real trouble started when I decided to plant a small vegetable garden. Nothing fancy, just tomatoes, peppers, some herbs. It was my escape from work, where I spend all day designing bridges and security systems. That patch of dirt, 20 by 15 feet, became my therapy. But the day Karen saw it marching around with her clipboard, I knew I was in for a ride. "Mike, this looks like a farm, not a neighborhood," she barked. Never mind that the HOA handbook said gardens were fine if they were neat and under a certain size. I said as much, but the next afternoon I got a violation letter, $50 fine, unapproved agricultural activity. And when I called the HOA office, I got stonewalled. The president is too busy to discuss individual cases. It became a game every week. A new fine, always for something a little different. Weeds, visual clutter, even disturbing the peace because my lawnmower was too loud. One day I found her taking pictures of my backyard like she was gathering evidence for a court case. I walked out and asked Karen, "What are you doing?" She never even blinked. "Documenting for the city." If you've got nothing to hide, why worry? Every morning at 7:30, she'd show up with her camera and notepad, jotting in a leather journal. It was like living under surveillance. My neighbors started giving me side-eye. Mrs. Peterson literally ran inside when she saw me. The kicker: Karen organized a community meeting all about protecting our neighborhood's property values, invited everyone but me. I peeked in to see a slideshow, my garden front and center, labeled "Current Problem Property." She made it sound like my little patch of green was threatening the future of Meadowbrook. Then she called for stronger enforcement. It worked. The next day my trash can got reported, my mailbox height was questioned, I even got dinged for having a garden hose visible from the street. My mailbox started filling with fines. Then the twist: one morning I wake up and find Karen inside my yard planting sunflower seeds with a trowel and pointing at a brand new iron gate she'd had installed in my fence. "Welcome to the new community garden, Mike. All residents can enjoy it now." I'm still in my pajamas, coffee in hand, and she's acting like she's just made me breakfast. "Karen, you put a gate in my fence, on my property, without asking." She grinned, held up some fuzzy document, and said, "The HOA has broad authority for community projects," and when I threatened to call the cops, she laughed. "Go ahead. My husband golfs with the sheriff." What Karen didn't know was that being a civil engineer who contracts with city projects has its perks. That night I logged into the city's GIS system and pulled the original property surveys. Turns out my land extended 3 feet past the old fence, meaning her fancy gate paid for with HOA money wasn't just on my property. It was 100% illegal. Even better, I dug up the HOA invoices by $200 for community improvements to a contractor who never filed the right permits. I called my old buddy Tommy, a brick mason from my military days. "You up for a little night work?" He laughed. "Can we make it bulletproof?" We planned to build a 6-foot wall just inside my legal boundary. I called Ben Harrison, the retired building inspector who lived down the block. The only neighbor who'd say hi these days. Ben took one look at the permit mess and said, "You need Sarah Martinez, best lawyer in the county for HOA bullies." Sarah listened to my story and just shook her head. Karen Thompson. She's got a file cabinet's worth of complaints from this neighborhood. But your case, this is the smoking gun. Turns out Karen had been using HOA funds for personal pet projects for years, and Sarah had been quietly collecting evidence. Let's make this the last straw, she said. So at midnight, Tommy and his crew showed up. We poured a deep foundation, laid thick brick, working with battery tools so nobody would call the cops. By sunrise, a 12-foot stretch of wall blocked Karen's gate. At 7:15, I was sipping coffee on my porch when Karen let out a scream so loud I swear you could hear it 2 counties over. She stormed over, shrieking, "You can't do this, I'm calling the police. I told her I built a wall on my land with a permit. You want to explain that gate?" The police officer who showed up was all business. She looked over the documents I had: permits, surveys, receipts, and then compared them to Karen's crumpled photocopies. "Ma'am, you need originals. Sir, you're clear." Karen's face was priceless, but instead of backing down, she doubled down, ranting about her broad HOA authority. The officer just shook her head. "Installing a gate isn't a minor improvement, it's a construction project." Karen kept threatening to call her friend the sheriff. The cop deadpanned, "I handle his security detail and I've never seen you at the club." That should have been the end. But Karen, oh, she went full Shakespeare. Called an emergency meeting, packed. The community center started playing The Martyr. We're under attack from a hostile resident. Her slideshow painted me as the villain, making my wall look like the Berlin Wall. Neighbors started to grumble, some even looked convinced. I stood up, hooked my laptop into the projector, and started clicking through official surveys, permit records, emails. By the time I showed invoices for Karen's illegal improvement projects and a draft contract for the sale of green space, including my land, people started yelling. That's when Sarah Martinez walked in with a county detective, handed Karen a stack of legal papers. "You're being served fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy." Karen turned to her husband, Robert, who just stood up and said, "Karen, you're on your own." The vote to remove her as president was almost unanimous. Only Karen voted no. It was over. What came after Karen was charged had to pay back every cent, resign, and do community service. Robert filed for divorce, took the house, and Karen left town for good. The neighborhood changed overnight. Ben was voted in as interim president. I became a technical advisor, and suddenly transparency was the new policy. Every dollar spent had to be approved, every complaint was tracked, and the neighbors who used to avoid me, they came over, apologized, invited me to cookouts. Even my once controversial vegetable garden inspired a community gardening program. But the real legacy, that brick wall. Instead of tearing it down, we painted it. Kids added their handprints. Neighbors made a mural of the 4 seasons. I put up a plaque, Meadowbrook Community Garden, where we grow together. Every morning, tending my tomatoes, I look at that wall and remember bullies only win when everyone else stays quiet. The wall Karen tried to use for power became the thing that brought us all together. Yeah, sometimes you've got to stand up and fight, especially when the soul of your community's on the line. So here's my question for you. When is it right to push back? Where's the line between rules and justice, between order and control? Drop your thoughts below. Share your own stories. Because real change starts with folks who won't back down.